Hi, Sanjana. So lovely to see you after so long.
So good to see you too. How has everything been?
Yeah, well, it's been absolutely tremendously exciting times, I must say. I think the last 3 years, all our work just became even more richer than before. And, our agendas are normally around change and around high performance culture building. This is when organizations are absolutely rife for these kind of sort of agendas. So, yeah, have been very, very exciting times, snowed under with work, but not complaining because it's just all been so good.
Well, that's amazing. And in fact, I mean, I could imagine you'd have so much to tell us and share with us, especially after the pandemic era. There must have been so many changes, and I'm sure that disruptions and progress. But tell me something about what you think the experience of organizations has been of the post the pandemic era for you personally.
Yeah, so I think that it's like I said, they are very exciting times. Uh, the pandemic has been like a live classroom, and it has compelled everyone to go back to the drawing board, to be able to question many paradigms and assumptions of the past. So I think it's done everyone a great job in terms of rethinking. So I think lots of opportunities for rethinking, recasting, spotting new opportunities in the market, using technology to be able to upgrade services to both customers. I think a realization that you can't take talent for granted,
Yeah.
and that you must have a mechanism and a very solid value proposition to be able to keep employees going. This whole paradigm that you're the employer, and therefore you're doing everyone a favor by giving them a job. I think there's that paradigm, or even the command and control style of dealing with people. I
Hmm.
think there's a lot of rethought around the way in which you come across, and the way in which you kind of manifest leadership within organizations has undergone a very significant change. So, overall, what are we finding organizations really do? I think I'm by and large really excited about how organizations are having the courage to move away from tired strategies
Yeah.
and instead look at strategy in smaller time frames of 18 months or 24 months or perhaps 36 months, to be able to say, what can we do now? Yeah, what do we have here? What opportunities are we missing, right? How can we revisit our own lens to be able to perhaps view things in perspective? What are the value creation journeys which we just let slip in the last couple of years? And the disruptions that you're experiencing have not really been only the last 3 years. I think you saw the mother of all upheavals in the last 3 years.
Absolutely.
You've actually been seeing disruptions for over a decade now. And so, how well have we responded to these disruptions? Because I think everyone got sharper with this crisis. And I think the idea now is to be able to say, with the pandemic settling down, what are the opportunities we have to be able to revisit strategies? I think what I'm also seeing in our work is that organizations are more open, and to be able to experiment and to be able to drive change. I think this is a very positive shift that I'm seeing across industries, which is, let's just, even if we didn't do it ever, let's do it now. Or if we didn't do it well, let's try it again. Maybe we didn't get something right. And that change is a very wide word, because it also means that you're open to relooking at your structures, you're open to relooking at your talent, you're open to relooking at your leadership. And I think organizations have bitten the bullet and taken some really, really tough decisions, particularly in the last 24 months to 36 months, in terms of the quality of leadership they believe they require for the future. So I think this whole orientation towards talent and culture and wanting to be future ready, I think, is a very welcome sort of shift that we're seeing inside organizations. But I think that, I must submit, this is a mixed bag, Sanchana. So you have, group of organizations which are still in denial, which want to go back to business as usual. The minute the pandemic settled, they want to go back to March of 2020 and want everything to go back to the way it used to be, because that is the familiar space, and you don't want to deal with the unfamiliar. I think the fixed mindset challenge that individuals have, and I'm not going to say it's just leadership; it's just across the board. I think has come very significantly in the way of many organizations using this disruption in a meaningful manner. And what I mean by that is the ability to be able to make the effort to learn new things, the ability to not look very good when you don't know something. For example, technology.
Yeah.
And so most of the leadership across organizations are migrants to technology, uh, notwithstanding which kind of industry. And I think that, there has to be a sense of courage and sort of fortitude, mental fortitude, to want to lead in an environment where many things are unfamiliar. And I think that you have an equal share of companies which are large, which have also gone back to old times. There are new economy companies as well which are struggling with leadership that can adapt and adjust and change, because finally they're the ones who are giving direction within organizations. So I think that kind of sort of preparation to be able to find their arms around disruption is extremely sort of important, and also to be prepared to not look very good in the interim while you are trying to drive that change. So I must say it's a mixed bag there. Having said that, I think the common theme that I find across, and this is literally across large size, mid size, small size companies, is that you want to be high performing. Now this
Yeah.
kind of sort of focus and determination to want to be high performing uh, is not new. It used to happen in the pre-pandemic era as well, but in the new environment, in the new economy, there is no choice but to be high performing. I think some of the organizations are motivated by wanting to catch up with lost time. Some of them are basically know there are opportunities in the environment, and they have not leveraged these opportunities well enough, so they want to go after this. Some of them want to do this because they know there's so much of loss of productivity.
Yeah.
There has just been, especially in organizations that have had challenges in the way in which they get the cadence in which they kind of execute and they get people to perform. The pandemic has been an era of low productivity, even if most organizations manage to be able to resurrect some semblance of order. I think over a period of time, there's no denial in the fact that there have been many pockets of loss of productivity, loss of leveraging opportunity, loss of becoming higher performing than they could have been. And I think there has been a fatigue that has set in, particularly in the last 12 months. So I think there is this whole catch up game now, which is, I want to
Yeah.
be able to leverage when things are up and running. How well can I resurrect my organization? How well can I bring in focus within the organization? How can we make sure that everyone's productive and aligned and pulling in the same direction? We do a lot of work in the space of OKRs, which is objective key results. This is a rage since Intel and Google and a whole lot of other companies used it to grow multiple X, and been working actively with organizations even through the pandemic, uh, helping them to grow through OKRs. And it's amazing what focus can do, and it's amazing what pulling in the right direction can do. It's amazing what happens when everyone's engaged and learns the language of goals. So all of that actually unfolding and unbundling in the context of wanting high performance.
No, that's quite amazing, and because you mentioned struggles being something that's been central to organizations not only in the post-pandemic era but even earlier. What
Hmm.
would you say if you could specifically talk about struggles with high performance?
Hmm.
What do organizations face the most?
This has been this area has been an area of focus, work and expertise for me for several years, because uh, you know almost over 3 decades I've been working with organizations around performance and high performance cultures and so on. And you ask a very interesting question around what are the impediments to high performance. And I'll call out some of them, and I'd be surprised if it doesn't resonate for anyone who's listening to this. So I think to begin with, in our discovery, we do an area of work called stories we tell ourselves about ourselves, right? And every organization has a set of stories they tell themselves about themselves. For example, we're very innovative, or we're a very, very creative organization. That, you know, I mean, we're very human centric, or we're very good with execution, and oftentimes these paradigms of what are we really good at have actually been true at some point of time in the evolution of the organization. So it's not just imagined, but it remains delusional over a period of time because you may not have upheld that strength and you still believe it to be a strength. And I think I must say that in discovery, it's very bemusing to be able to unearth this, because oftentimes we find the organization is anything but what it is that they're saying they really are. And I think that is an area of focus and must be an area of concern for organizations, because if you believe something to be a strength and it's not, in fact, then there's a whole body of work to be done, including rewiring your entire thought process around what you want to do within the organization, how you want to go about solving problems, how you want to unleash value, and how you want to basically manifest high performance. So there needs to be a lot of sort of rethinking and admission to what may actually not be working. So I want to talk about this first part, which is that a lot of the strengths organizations believe they have are not necessarily their strengths, and or more often than not, what we end up discovering is that is quite contrary to what the organization believes are their strengths. I think it speaks volumes to me on the disconnect that you can have between the top leadership and the team that's actually executing the front line. And oftentimes you remain delusional, you don't know of the truth because you're not as well connected to be able to continuously garner data or remain communicative with people across levels. It's typically a phenomena within large organizations which have really scaled up in a very short period of time, where the leaders have remained trapped in the paradigms of the past and are not in touch with the realities of what's really going on with the troops down the
So
line.
is this just like a lack of communication? Is it just laziness? Is it how does that why does that end up happening?
So I think that, when you scale up really fast and you have lots of people who've kind of come into the organization over a period of time, I think it's interesting to be able to figure what are the roles people are playing across the organization. And so is that well defined? Has it just organically evolved? What role, for example, does the mid management play? In many organizations, it's the front line that's achieving everything, and the mid management is playing like a consolidator role to make sure things are happening. And the top leadership believes that our job is basically strategizing and giving direction and managing senior stakeholders and other external stakeholders and so on, and that whole ecosystem is a job by itself. And so they expect the mid management and their the people managers and their teams to be able to take on the task of execution and performance. I've always maintained that you can delegate work. You can delegate work, you can give people instructions, you can give them direction, you can coach people, all of that, but you cannot delegate your leadership. So leadership is something that people must experience down the line. They must know what you stand for. They must know what your expectations really are. What are your standards of performance? You can't allow all of that to dilute as you grow as an organization. So to your point on why would they not know, or why are they disconnected? And I think it's because we just kind of start redefining organically what we believe we really need to do within the organization, and it links back to our question on what are the impediments to high performance. And the impediments to high performance, like I said, start with not really knowing what is happening in the execution rhythm of the organization, the cadence of execution. What new challenges have emerged? What is the in the nature of customer intelligence, market intelligence? What is it that our people know in the front line, which we must be aware of if we're formulating strategies or we're defining strategies or direction for the organization? So this disconnect has a huge price to pay. But I want to talk about everyday rhythm of working within the organization, which can sort of manifest huge number of reasons for why the organization does not work to its full potential. For example, MAFA. So MAFA is an acronym, and it's an acronym for mistaking activity for performance. If you reflect on most organizations, you'll find so long as there's something happening every day, right? It looks like everyone's really busy. So it's that difference between busyness and business. And so
Absolutely.
MAFA is the full form of MAFA is mistaking activity for accomplishment. And so, just so long as you're coming to work every day, everyone's seeming really busy, there are meetings to attend, there's market visits to go to, the people are traveling to different places and so on. The large question that still needs to be answered is what did we achieve by being able to do all that we're doing? So, in doing all that we're doing, what are we really doing? And so, is this really manifesting into value creation? Is this manifesting into performance? Is it manifesting into problem solving? What is this actually doing for us? And so you can go through days and believe that you're really really busy and there's a lot happening, but that's just a lot of busyness and not business. So to be astute around this concept of MAFA is very very important for people managers. So the tendency to micromanage, for example, and micromanaging is a very common challenge people experience within organizations where their managers micromanage them. Everyone believes that they don't get the elbow room that they really want within organizations. It's very common. And so, where does micromanagement really sort of emerge from? It emerges from primarily an insecurity that the person who's actually executing does not know or understand your standards. And so, you're going to basically influence every step of what this person's doing in execution to make sure that they are in the right direction and delivering to the standards of quality that you are upholding. Now, so because you're worried, you believe it's okay to manage them in this manner. The truth is that most people, when they move into people manager roles, which is from being individual contributor to a people manager, most organizations don't offer people any training on what does it really mean from a mindset perspective. What does this really mean in terms of getting somebody else to perform? And I think this remains the largest gap in the way in which we allow people to take on people management positions. The general perception in organizations is let's move people up if they've spent 2 or 3 years. They must now lead some other people, otherwise, they will not get a sense of movement. So, promotions are normally offered, early promotions, particularly, are offered on a almost on a platter to say that if we don't give this person a sense of movement, which means that we move them to the next level, we might lose them as talent because somebody else will give them that position or that opportunity, and so it's better we give it to them. And it's seen as a low risk kind of challenge because they're leading another 2 3 people, and that's all right. You know what I mean? Sometimes it can be a larger team, but typically it's they're going to lead 2 3 people who are really young and inexperienced, so it's fine. Actually, you've just doubled or tripled up your talent risk because they're inexperienced, they're ill prepared, they are perhaps undercooked to be able to take on this responsibility. Now you're going to get them perhaps disillusioned or confused or feeling very lonely and perhaps demotivated because they're not the great performers they thought they were, and you might lose them anyway. The other part is you might lose the other three who are reporting into them as well. So I've always maintained that the people manager role, the first one as well, and the next ones need to be given to people who've been prepared for this, who must know that this is a serious transition. That when we allow you to move up, you're responsible for so many more salaries, which is the number of people who you're going to get to be able to
Yeah.
lead. And that it's your job to be able to represent the organization to these people and play that connector role, which will keep this talent going and keep this talent believing in us as an organization. And so, whether you're a small size organization, mid size, or large size, you need that. You need more people in the organizations who are advocates for the employer. Instead, what we end up doing is moving, you know, underprepared people to these jobs and then frustrating them as well because they actually don't know the first thing about motivating other people. They're also in a space which we call occupational intimacy, which is only a manager, only the people manager is in the OI space, the occupational
Yeah.
intimacy space. There's nobody else there. And so they represent the company or the organization to this group. And if they're not doing a good job, there's nobody else coming there to be able to motivate people on their behalf. So as a result, you get a disconnect with the organization. So anyone who's wondering about attrition at a junior level or at a mid level should relook at who they're allowing to become people managers sort of inside the organization. So I'm going to come back to this micromanagement piece because we were talking about impediments to high performance. And so it comes from insecurity. It also comes from not knowing the next job. And normally you start managing people at the next level below yourself, because you do know that job. You may not know the job above, but you know the job below.
So
Whereas you want to.
there's a lack of synergy on the levels, different levels of
That's
the
right.
organization. Yeah.
That's right. And so instead of raising the bar to groom people to know the next level job,
Hmm.
you're actually allowing for people to start getting involved with one job lower, which is perhaps a space of familiarity, and it actually reduces elbow room at the next level. So micromanaging actually reduces performance within the organization, because quantifiably this person's doing their own job and the jobs of the people who are in the team. So they're producing sort of a collective productivity, which may be suboptimal to what they could have done if this person was actually leading people and getting each one to be able to deliver performance. So micromanagement is definitely an impediment to high performance. There's also the Parkinson's law, right, which is work expands to occupy time. So, whether you are producing X or you're producing 2X, whether you're asked to produce 3X, you have just that many hours in a day. And so, if you don't find mechanisms to be able to work in a more productive manner and to keep improving the way in which you're working, you can never actually enable the organization to grow. Most organizations, the minute they have targets that are higher, are asking for more people. And this might seem logically right, that if you want to grow 1x in the coming year or 2x in the next 3 years, we need to hire more people. And to me, my answer to that is go back to the drawing board to see how well you're utilizing the people you have on board right now. And this kind of this tendency to be able to very easily get head count, the number of people that you want on board. I know there is a lot more stringency around this within organizations right now, but this again remains a mixed bag. And so there needs to be more accountability for why it is that you're asking people to be able to come in on board, and to also be mindful about the fact that work does in fact expand to occupy time. So a lot of people are suboptimal on their contribution, and that kind of reduces their experience instead of enhancing their experience. So contribution gets reduced instead of contribution getting enhanced. So it is definitely in the way of high performance. I also believe that there are lots of distractions in a workplace. And currently workplaces have become the always on kind of 24 by 7. We can call each other anytime. And I think there was a lot of backlash in the pandemic as well, with people calling each other at 10 o'clock in the night, 11 o'clock in the night. I know someone who was working in an advertising agency, and he said that his client gets down to talking to them only after 12:30 midnight. So I'm just wondering about everyone's work life balance there. You know what I mean? And and especially if you're in services, you needed to be ready to be able to take that call anytime during the day and night and so on. And I'm wondering about what's causing this, right? And I think there are a lot of distractions in the workplace. I had a very nice sort of image that explained this. So, which talked again about what kind of a manager are you? Are you a manager who has like an umbrella style? And by umbrella, what I really mean is, do you protect your team from distractions?
Okay.
And this is not protecting the team from experiences or from learning, but protecting them from distractions. Or are you like a funnel style manager, which means that you allow all the distractions to flow into your team? Now, let me mention what kind of distractions I'm talking about. So, for example, people just dropping in for a conversation, or people asking for meetings at short notice, or there being no outcomes of those meetings, but you're supposed to go and attend those meetings and so on. Changes in priorities, or if there are interdependencies, there are changes in timelines, lots of problems that can actually delay you and distract you. So I'm going to use two D's there: delay and distract. And so to what extent do people managers come in to be able to manage some part of that? And of course people are adult and they can manage a lot of it themselves, but they often don't because of where they are placed in the hierarchy. And we're very, very power centric as organizations. I keep repeating to my clients that the hierarchy belongs to Industrial Revolution 1.0. And we're currently in Industrial Revolution 4.0, but we love the hierarchy and we love the power distances. And, we love it when we have power and someone else doesn't. And so, in all fairness, a lot of those distraction and delays that I'm talking about, or constant change in agenda, Many people aren't empowered or don't feel empowered enough to push it back or to be able to manage it, and they might need their managers to be able to become a bit of that umbrella, so that you don't throw all those variables onto the team to manage themselves. A lot of people in one-on-ones or through focus group discussions that we've had believe they wonder what contribution the manager is making to their jobs, and to what extent is the manager enabling them to become high performing. In one pulse survey that was done for someone that I was coaching, they actually came back saying that our last quarter's performance had absolutely nothing to do with our manager. And there were a lot of them saying that, which is very interesting, for them to even perceive that and to be able to express that, to say that I don't believe, no, my manager has actually contributed to my performance. So good question to ask, which is, at every level, what are we expecting, what is the contribution? Even if we've ended up having lots of people over a period of time, can we kind of just take stock on whose role is what and what are they actually contributing? And look, it's not so complicated to be high performing. I always tell organizations, bring it down to a simple credo. For example, speed of problem solving is equal to speed of performance. So, if I'm confused about what is performance, well, if you solve problems all the time for us, you're basically high performing, right? And who's the person who we want to select to be able to promote or to be able to identify someone who's high potential? Whoever is solving most number of problems within the organization. So kind of create a contagion of problem solving, and you'll oftentimes see that you can indeed improve performance dramatically. So
And that's great for incentive building too, because that
yeah,
makes people want to reach that, end goal and solve the problem. So it's
yeah,
it's motivating for sure.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And also kind of gives you a sense of accomplishment, isn't it? Because
Exactly.
it kind of goads you into action. And people are natural problem solvers. Nobody likes to just sit on problems. And if we've ended up creating a culture where it's okay and they're apathetic towards problems, then it basically requires to go back to the drawing board on who's leading them, what is the style of leadership, what is it that is not motivating them to solve problems that are just lying around them. I have a very interesting story to share. So one of our clients, created something called, they realized that people don't have the energy for problem solving. So they created like a room, and they called it the problem solving room. I'm just going to call it that. They had a name for it, but they called it was basically the room where you come to with your problems. And the idea was that oftentimes people sit with problems because it requires too many teams to be able to collaborate, to be able to come together to find a solution. So it's not only, yeah, the solution is not just embedded in the place where people are struggling with it. They may have noticed it, they may have uncovered it, they may have talked about it, but the solution requires many more people to come in. So some form of co-creating a solution, using collective intelligence, getting everyone to own the problem, that kind of thing. So this group of very well-meaning leaders within the organization said, why don't we lead this by saying, here's the room, who's struggling with an execution problem, come here, pull in whoever you need to, we'll use our power to be able to help you solve this problem. And they decided to showcase what it meant, to use this problem solving room. And so they picked a set of problems that they were already aware of, and they actually drew in teams and they sort of demonstrated it, to show them, look, see how easy it is, bring it forth, don't hide it, be transparent, come and talk about it, we can solve these problems. And they did that for 5 days, and after that they opened it up saying, all right, now we showed you all how to do it, now bring us more problems. And guess what? No one came after the fifth day,
Wait,
right?
really?
Just no one showed up with any problem, and it was very interesting. And they were intrigued with this, and we were working with them. They brought us in when they weren't getting those problems, to say there's
Yeah,
definitely a
yeah,
cultural challenge here. Can you help us with this? What is
yeah.
actually going on? And there was just so much going on, because which were legacy issues around culture. But I think more importantly, the paradigm that if you kind of even call out that you have a problem, you'll get blamed, or it will look like you underperformed. So it's better to just cover it up and not talk about problems. And I don't know how many organizations are sitting with it. I think this was a very, very, courageous organization that decided to deal with this head on, let people know that if you're presuming something here, this is not true. We absolutely want to know. You will not be blamed even if this problem didn't get solved for years on end. So please bring it forth. And I think oftentimes these challenges within organizations emanate from the fact that you do have tenured people who have behaved in a particular manner over a long period of time, and they
Hmm.
tell others that it's not worth it, don't bring it up because you don't know, and don't believe this problem solving room because you never know what the repercussion of this might really be. And I think it requires so lack of psychological safety basically to
Yeah, yeah.
submit to the fact that we are having problems here, or that someone's not cooperating, or the interdependencies are not being managed because of which we are underperforming. So yeah, we
That's
have some
quite
really interesting.
unfortunate because it was such a good endeavor. I mean,
Yeah,
to have
yeah.
this problem solving room.